Hey everyone, it's Mr. Souther coming at you with a video about Unit 2 in Comp Sci A, and we're gonna head all the way to the end, pretty much, less than 10. We're talking about how to print objects. Okay, so here's the main thing with printing objects. So I'm just go straight to the end because the first module and second and third is gonna make small changes and I can kind of work my way back. Okay, so let's choose one of these. So we're gonna basically learn how to print an object. So I'm gonna go straight to the Pi class. I haven't done that yet, it looks like. So in the Pi class, when this thing loads, essentially what's happening, let me go ahead and I'm just going to clear everything, okay? And I'm going to bring it over. So it's just starting from scratch. I don't have any of the Pi or the dessert class, everything like that. So first thing I got to do is I need to import from my backpack cookie, cupcake, and dessert. Okay, so I'm going to import all those. If you don't have those, you're going to have to create these new files, and then you're going to have to bring over everything from their little hyperlink here on the left side to bring in the code. Okay. I don't like how this is kind of organized. Let me just kind of zoom in real quick, and I'm gonna go ahead and move dessert because that's my super class all the way to the left. And then we got cookie and cupcake. I don't really care about cookie, so that doesn't matter, but we have cupcake. All right. So here's what's gonna happen. So cupcake class was already created. This is something we've done before, but I made sure that we have a public class cupcake that's gonna extend dessert. So the main thing in this is we're going to print objects, but for the assignment, we're going to write a toString method that is going to print an object. Already laid out for us should be, and you can see in the hyperlink as well, that cupcake is an extension of dessert, so it's a subclass. We have a new variable, private instance variable, that's a Boolean data type, so true, false, for this class that is whether or not it's mini. I see that we have a no argument constructor. Remember, there's nothing in the parentheses. The name follows the Java and class name, and it's just follow together with the word public. What we're doing here is we're setting a default value for is many to be true. I don't see a super keyword, but that's probably not going to matter too much. Here, public cupcake. So the main thing is we have our parameterized constructor. I use the keyword to bring over flavor and price from the superclass that's called dessert that has these two variables created here. Okay, so this allows me to use that again in Cupcake. And then finally, we localize the this dot is many is many. Two things that I can see right off the bat that are missing. And I want to do a quick recap. So in the last few lessons, what we did was we went to food truck runner and I instantiated, in this case, a dessert object. Okay, so I'm going to do a dessert, test, or let's say prototype, right? Right. I have a new dessert that I'm going to make, and it's going to be a new dessert, and let's just let it be a default. Okay, no argument. So it's going to be defaulted to whatever it is. So we instantiated it, and then when we printed the object, right, I would have had to do this thing where I said, hey, system.out.println, and I would have had to use that prototype object to call a get flavor method, right? And then I would have printed this, and then I would have had to have done it for flavor. We did it for price, right? It looks like we maybe don't have it looks like I never wrote a get flavor method. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, because I started over, of course. Let me just very quick, I'm gonna pause the video and just type these in. All right, now that I resumed the recording, we're gonna go ahead and print get flavor. So what I did real quick was I went ahead and coded very quickly a get flavor. This is called an accessor method. What it allows me to do is to run a method where it's going to return whatever the value for flavor variable that's attached to this prototype is. So what this allows me to do is when I go to system.out.println to print something, I can just use the object name prototype, and I'm going to call the get flavor method, and that's going to return flavor. So when I run this thing, it'll just say flavor is, or it just says plain, right? That's the default value. If you don't believe me, if you go to dessert, here's the no argument constructor, right? The flavor by default is plain. Okay, so that's kind of done. Now let's talk about we're going to create an instance of a dessert class, dessert subclass that's going to be cupcake, and then we're going to print it. I'm going to go back to here real quick. For the so there's a new so basically so essentially what I have to do is if there's multiple variables, if you're using the accessor method, that's wonderful, but I'd have to do system.out.println, prototype.getFlavor, prototype.getPrice, prototype.get is mini, right? So you have to type these accessor methods over and over. And after a while, it gets really tedious, right? Imagine if I had 12 variables that I wanted to print. That's really annoying. So rather than printing out each individual variable one at a time with a line of code, what if I could just do this? Instead of that, what if I did system.out.println and I said, hey, will you just print me whatever that prototype object is? Print me everything I need to know about the object. So right now I can't run this and you'll see the error because there's no method that allows me to run it. And in fact, what you're going to see is this weird nonsense here. Dessert at 4FD, blah, blah, blah. And what's crazy from what I remember from last year is that value after dessert changes every time. This goes kind of deep into like understanding about computers, and this is certainly above my pay grade. But my understanding is this prototype object right now it's going to be plain and 50 cents. That's what the default is. That object is stored somewhere in your computer's memory, right? And so I think this has something to do with random access memory or RAM. So it's stored somewhere in the computer, and that location might change every time I run it. In other words, we have a problem. We're storing these values for the prototype somewhere, and it's hard for me to access it. That's why it's giving you this nonsense. It's merely telling you where it might be located in your random access memory, which gets cleared if I'm not mistaken. So the bottom line is I don't want to do 500 get flavors. I just want to print the object. Okay, so how do we do that? We're going to go to dessert, and this is a super class, mind you. Here's my mutator method. So right below that, right at the end, I'm just going to type in new code, and let's go ahead and write a method to print my object. And really, it's the values of variables, right? So the object's values of variables. That's what I want to print. I want to know what the flavor, price, and chewy or mini or whatever it is in one shot. This is how we're going to do that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do public first, and then here's the deal. So we've talked about this before, but we have three primitive data types that we discussed in this class. One is int for integers, that's whole numbers, positive or negative. We have double for decimal, and then finally we have Boolean for true false. We also work quite a bit with this string data type. String data type is not a primitive data type. It is actually a class that's baked into Java, so it exists there. Um, Similarly, in code.org, they already made the painter class, and we got to use it in the first unit all we wanted to, right? Spawn a painter, make it move, make it paint, do all that stuff. Well, the string class exists and it's already built into Java. So you can't modify any of the methods. Like you can't go in there and change what they have. It's just pre-built. Much like we have the oxygen we breathe on a day-to-day basis. It's already here. We get to use that oxygen, right? Okay. So we're going to go in the string class, string data type, and specifically there is a toString method here. And that's all you need to put in here. So I have public string toString. You might be asking, Southern, why do I need that string class? Okay. We're going to return something. Okay. And what the toString is going to return is it when it prints the values of the variables for that object, it's basically spitting it out as text. So I won't be able to do any math with what gets spit out. It is merely just to produce a text value for like, hey, what's inside this object? Like what's all attached here? So what we're going to do here is for the return, we're just going to go ahead and return the variable names. Okay. So here we have flavor and we have price, and I'm going to use a concatenation. Now, when I run this, which I'll do right now, you'll see it's going to get a little bit messy because it says plain 0.5 all in one word. Okay, that's kind of hard to really understand. So I need to kind of finesse this a little bit and say, okay, so instead of returning just the flavor and price value, let's do flavor with quotation, right? And then do a concatenation with flavor. And then after that, maybe I want to print price, but I want it on a new line. So that /n will take care of it with the word price, close quotation, do a plus sign. So it chains all of those together. And when I run it, it'll be nice and clean, right? Flavor, plain, price, 50 cents, all right there. Okay, so that's really cool. So that's done. If you want, if you're kind of nervous about not having a dollar sign, you can go and add that, rerun it, right? Make it look pretty. There we go. All right. So that's done. So congratulations. We are now able to use essentially one line of code, this guy right here, to spit out the attributes or the values of the variables in the object. Okay. So in module 7, though, the moral of the story is what can we do to get the subclass printing in the same manner? So while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and spawn. Let me get rid of this like nonsense in between here, just so you have a little bit more room to watch my code. I'm going to go ahead and declare or instantiate a cupcake object, right? Because it's the subclass of dessert. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and do cupcake, right, with a capital C. Let's just call it, test, right? Or let's just call it red velvet. I don't care. Or velvet equals new cupcake. And let's give it some arguments, right? Let's call it red velvet in quotations for flavor. Price is $2.99. And then is it mini? Sure, why not? Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and spawn that. Go ahead and run it, make sure there's no errors. If I correctly made my parameterized constructor, I don't have any errors. Okay, cool. So now when I spawn this velvet object, all of these values are going to be stored using these variables right here, flavor, price, and is many. All of that now is being stored with velvet. So that's cool. Now what I need to do is I need to print the object. I forgot to make the accessor method and the mutator method, but I don't need it for the module here. What I do want to do is I want to go ahead and write another toString method, if I can type it, and nothing goes in the parentheses. So the return type is a string, and I'm going to go ahead and do, normally I would do return flavor plus price plus is many. But wait, remember, this is a subclass, so I don't have to do as much work. And specifically, what I can do is I can use the super keyword to my advantage here. So let's recap real quick. With a super keyword, when we use the constructor, we know flavor and price exist in the dessert class. Cupcake is a subclass of the dessert class. Therefore, it also has flavor and price already available at its disposal. Okay, there's one minor problem though. When I spawn a cupcake class, and if I want to do something to, let me just show it to you because I'm going to talk about it. So return, let's just say you want to put return flavor here. Okay, let's just keep it simple. Watch what happens when I run this. Oh, I need to actually print it. Gosh darn it. We need to actually print the velvet object here. Okay, so I'm gonna try and print that. It looks like I got errors, so I'm probably gonna have to deal with that, which kind of sucks. What's the problem? Cupcake. There we go. So that's the error I was looking for. So in Cupcake line 26, that's this guy that I just made right there. It says flavor has private access in dessert. Remember, one of the things that we know is we are going to create private instance variables, and that's right here. So string flavor and price. These are basically kind of protected within the dessert class. This avoids someone coming over and basically overwriting your dessert object. To protect that, when I try and do that in Cupcake, it's getting mad because it's like, yo, flavor is a private access method. You can't access it from a different class, even though it's a subclass. So I'm like, well, rats, I can't do anything there. But don't worry, we can use this super keyword to tell the code, like, hey, it's okay. We already have it declared in the dessert class. Let's go ahead and use those variables, right? So I'm going to use super again. And here's what's crazy. You can actually use that to call the toString method. And then I can do a concatenation with what is it? Is mini. And then go ahead and concatenate again with the is mini variable. And so when I run this, let's see if it actually prints correctly. And there you go, you'll see. So what it's showing is flavor, plain. Oh, that's the other object. Let me just go ahead and comment that out because I don't want to see that again. My bad. Let me clear and run it. So now I can see that it's printing my new cupcake object. It says the flavor is red velvet. There you are. Price is $2.99, just like I coded there. Is mini is true, which is right there. So it's printing the object just like the way you want it to. If I really want to clean this up, I can go ahead and put a forward slash n there, and then it's going to go ahead and leave it on a new line, just like that. So now I've successfully printed the object. So two takeaways, really. One is if you have just a regular class you're working in, right? It's all by itself. It's not a subclass. This is how you're going to write the toString method. Always, you're going to do public string toString. What's going to return is going to be all text. Even though I'm using the variable here and here, it's just going to produce whatever the text is there. So even though the price is $2.99, it's just going to display it as $2.99. Why do we do this? So that I don't have to write a get flavor method, get price, get is mini. I could just spawn the object or instantiate it and then print the object, and then I'm done. So that's cool. That's the moral of the story, number one. Number two, when you have a subclass, be careful how you write the toString method. So you're going to do the same format, public string toString. That's no different than it was in dessert class. But for the return, this time around, you can't just go access flavor and price. Remember, those things are protected because they are private instance variables, and we need to make them private so that they don't get overwritten by some other class. Okay. But good news is since cupcake is a extension of dessert, I can use that super keyword with the period to call the toString method. So when it runs this line of code, it's going to say, oh, this guy wants me to do system.out.println velvet. So then it realizes that velvet is part of the cupcake class. Then the code looks to the cupcake.java, finds the toString method there because that's what we're trying to print. And this is already pre-baked in Java. So it knows, oh, he wants to print an object. No problem. Goes to line 25 and then knows the return keyword because it's going to spit out something. As soon as it sees super, right, dot toString, it's going to say, oh, I'm going to go back all the way up here real quick and recognize that dessert is the super class for cupcake. Then it goes to dessert class, and then it starts reading the code and it's hunting for toString. And oh, what do you know? There's the toString method, and this is what it's going to execute, whatever that is, flavor and price. Once it has that ready to go, then it goes back to cupcake.java and then adds these two things and edit. So essentially, this output, flavor red velvet, price $2.99, that's all coming from the dessert class. That's really what's going to print it. The only new thing I did was I said, hey, bring this over here to the cupcake class for my cupcake object. Oh, and by the way, can you add on is mini true? And then you're done. So there you have it. Let's test it, see if I fail it or not. It's probably going to be really mad. We did. Oh shoot! You know what? I realized this is pie, so I did it for cupcake. My bad. So if you do this for part D or B, whatever it was for cupcake, it will work 100%. Hope that helps. Hope you understand a little bit more about toStrings and how to print objects. And let me know if you have questions.